Welcome to Chalk and Code.
where the science of learning meets modern technology.
We're bringing together entrepreneurs, product leaders, researchers, and advocates
To spark ideas, challenge assumptions, and shape the future of learning.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Talk and Code. Today, we're joined by Jennifer Huang, who is the founder and CEO of hihilulu, a groundbreaking Chinese language immersion platform redefining how children learn Mandarin. Drawing on more than 30 years of business experience across Asia, Europe, and North America, Jennifer blends pedagogical innovation with technological precision to make one of the world's most complex languages engaging and accessible. A multilingual entrepreneur and a mother of trilingual twins, she created hihilulu to fill a personal gap in language education. Through proprietary methods like dualism pedagogy and the snowballing method, which we're going to talk about, Jennifer is leading the charge in AI-driven purpose-based edtech that unites cognitive science, cultural immersion, and joyful learning. Thanks for joining us today, Jennifer.
Thank you for inviting me. Nice to meet you, Jill.
It's great to meet you too, all the way from Paris too. Can you tell us a little bit about the name hihilulu, and can you kind of walk us through the moment that you realized that traditional Chinese language teaching methods weren't really working for your own children, and like sort of how that led to developing the dualism pedagogy approach?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's a very long journey. It started very personal because I had my kids born in 2011. So we were in Paris, and I just suddenly realized after they turned 2 year old that to pass my Chinese to them is a big challenge and very difficult. And I checked around with my friends, and I found most of my friends, though, those kind of Chinese, overseas Chinese, and their kids, the second and third generation, none of them could read and write properly Chinese. I'm not joking. And all my friends are really highly educated, westernized Chinese. So I was shocked to discover that. And then I found indeed, because there's no right language environment and the right method and the right setting for those children to learn Chinese. It's even their heritage language. However, none of them had mastered the language like their parent. So
Yeah.
that rang a big bell to me. Then I was horrified. I said, how could I do that? Because my husband is a French. So I don't want my kids to lose the Chinese language, to understand at least their background and half of their culture, right? So I had to send them to different kind of language course. I've gone to the most popular Chinese language schools in Paris, and I found it's horrible because they are still using textbooks from China or whatever textbook given by Chinese embassy, and the class is gigantic with 40, 50 people from all kind of age. So you could have in one classroom kids from 6, 8 year old to 50 mixed with
Wow.
it's impossible. It's impossible. And my kids refuse, and also my friends' kids refuse to go to this kind of weekend, Saturday Chinese courses. And that is a phenomenon of those kind of families issue because there's a big debate at home between parents and kid that how you should learn, and the kids are rebelling. So I don't want my kids to land there. I understood the problem then, and I said, I was working as a strategic consultant for a technical company, and I had been hired as a CEO for a London-based startup as well. So in a way, I said, there must be a technical way through the innovation to solve this problem that we are not in China or Taiwan. However, we can pass the language to our kids cross-border with new content, interesting for them, and the right methodology. So because of this, I started the journey. And the first thinking is, why don't we do a streaming platform, embedding
Yeah.
the basic vocabulary and grammar into a streamed content system and push personalized content package to kids. At that moment, when this concept came out and tested, we developed the alpha product, and it was to the market. We tested, and then we found it's not enough. It has to be more systematic. So we built a 6-level system with high frequency vocabulary required, and we bundle it together with children-friendly cartoon and video, and push it as a personalized package to Kiev. That worked very well for listening speaking skills at the beginning, especially for kids between 3 to 8. And then we learned quickly that it's not enough because, listening and speaking are basically just two skills, right? We need to tackle the problem of reading and writing. And then we were very puzzled by our customers who had abandoned us after 2 years of use of our application. And because they said, look, it's great for oral communication. However, it's hard for us to continue with reading and writing, not alone literacy learning. So we said, wow, our method and product doesn't solve that problem yet. So let's go further. And then we started to approach all the existing methodology of Chinese teaching in the world, from China to Hong Kong and to Taiwan and to America and to France. And luckily, after analyzing all different methodology, we found the most compelling, effective, and scientific method was actually in France, which is invented by a well-known professor called Joy Bellasson. And he had invented a very unique pedagogy and method to simplify for his students to learn Chinese extremely efficiently, especially for character-based learning, literacy part. So I approached him after we launched our first product. I said, we need to enhance our product. We need to build far stronger product to answer the question, how we can help non-Chinese children in non-Chinese language environment to learn with interest and the right way, right? And so we started then another new journey to integrate his pedagogy, which is so-called dualism pedagogy, his method, which is called snowballing method, into our established platform already, you know. So you could imagine then we decided if we take such an academic approach, we will do for the school as a very serious answer to the Chinese language curriculum. So we started to design level by level curriculum, new content based on this method, and year over year, and we approach and sell into private school and then expand internationally. So from our long journey, to make it short, it's proven that this pedagogy and method indeed is the right one. And we work at the moment mostly with Montessori and international schools because those schools, they really understand multilingual education's barrier, obstacle, and challenge. And they recognize this methodology right away.
Can you explain a little bit more about what dualism pedagogy is?
Yes. Okay. Traditional Chinese language learning and the teaching is basically based, it's very westernized. So Chinese language itself is tongna or logographic, right? You have character and then you have a pronunciation system. The pronunciation system is introduced through a so-called pinyin system since 1950 from China. So any foreign learners, if they want to learn this language, they have to learn two systems parallel, which is absolutely overwhelming in terms of your content. And this method, however, has been carried out in decades. No academic people had challenged it, at least from China and Taiwan. So it became a kind of status quo. If you learn Chinese, you have to bear. It's difficult. You have to learn the four tones, parallel the character. And when you take any textbook from China or Taiwan, it starts with word because they adapted the westernized language education, starting from word, right? We say hello or thank you. We start learning word rather than individual character, which is actually the organic unit of this language. And that's why many, many foreign learners are discouraged by the old way of learning. So as a result, either they master oral communication only by learning through pinyin, that's it, or they can read and write, but pronunciation is always a problem. To master the four language skills same time. So what is dualism about is to respect the nature of this language. It is tonal and logographic. So that means you learn the tonality part separately to the character-based literacy learning. And you give them two systems and merge them together when the level arrive at a certain maturity, you know. So that is basically
I
dualism
see.
theory. And in practice, it means you split listening, speaking to reading and writing. So what we had developed as a first product when I was at Learn Launch, was the listening, speaking skills for coverage, oral communication, a system. And for literacy learning, now we introduced this methodology so that we cover finally 4 language skills. And we treat all the learners according to their level and age differently. You can imagine for younger kids, below 8 or below 7, there's no point to force them to learn writing, right? They learn or push them more to the listening speaking skills and give them rich content, audio visual and gamified content, including AI feature, whatever, to specifically train their phonetic skills. So it's a system. High frequency, practical words, vocabulary, blah, 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 sentence pattern, whatever. And then when they have interest to learn writing after 6-year-old, we introduce the writing. And we don't introduce pinyin, this westernized symbol for pronunciation,
Yes.
right beginning, because it's very confusing for children when they start in school learn their own mother tongue. For example, in France, they learn French. In US, they learn English. When they are learning alphabetic language at the beginning, we don't introduce the Chinese language with pinyin to confuse them completely.
Yeah.
We delay that later. So that is basically what the dualism pedagogy about. It's basically respect the nature of this language and the nature of how children learn.
That makes a lot of sense. I think it's the separation of the Chinese characters
Yeah.
and the words. And I mean, and you have some Chinese characters displayed behind you as an example of
Yes, you
the
see,
complexity for a child just learning the Roman alphabet,
yeah,
ABCs, to try to do that at the same time as learning these characters, I imagine would be just incredibly
very,
overwhelming.
very, it's double the workload. It's impossible. It's
Yeah.
overwhelming. That's why the traditional Chinese learning for foreign students, they are barely effective. Barely effective. It's not like learning English. After 2 years, you can at least speak something. Very often, our customer schools, they come to us to complain after 2 years from traditional way of teaching. Their students still cannot communicate very short dialogue. That's a problem. And we
Mhm.
need to overcome that. So now it's something very special about Professor Joel Bellason's invention, which happened in I think 1990s. In 1990, he had been decades long in Chinese language teaching, and he found the frustration of his students to learn Chinese easily. So what he did is he studied the characters, thousands of characters, and he built a methodology very interesting, which simplify everything. So basically, what he had identified is there are actually only over 200 radicals, or he calls them components, which build over 90% of Chinese character.
Mm.
Key students learn the first 200 components. Like they are also character. They could be character. They could be just a symbol because the language itself is, pictographic. Of course, all of them is composed by those little graphs, right? And then it evolves in modern time and simplified. However, there's always room to go back to that component. So key students learn those 200 components first, and then the component constructed with other come with new character, and character plus character come with word, and the word plus word come with phrase. And phrase plus phrase, you come with sentence. So he calls it snowballing method.
Okay, that makes sense.
So his student basically, he has set up 3 thresholds He introduced his methodology into the French school system. So in France, if you take Chinese course as a curricular program in high school, university, the textbook now is his textbook with this methodology. So what he's about is he has 3 levels. 3 levels has a so-called threshold character or components. We learn the component, you go to maybe 250 character as a level 1. With this level of character, you can already build certain words, and then you can have simple dialogue. And then from there, you extend to 500 with increased component and character. And then it became like a Lego game. Very interesting. Everybody loved learning this way, especially children, because it's so gamified. Oh, so this is about his method. What we decided with him, we invited him to be our academic advisor. And then what we did was to enrich it. We first take only 125 out of his 214 component system, because for children, vocabulary and literacy reading and writing is different, right? To adults, we don't need to learn all of these complicated one, but we need the basic practical one. So we take 125 components and we build levels of system. So each level 20 to 30 components, extend to 120 to 150 character, and character to several hundred words. Like this, we build a system by system, year 1, year 2, year 3. So now we have a system with 8 levels. It covers kindergarten, primary school, and middle school. Each year, each level, And like this, our students could arrive at the end of the system, a very good basic communication skill, easy dialogue, daily conversation, and reading and writing skills, simple essay, and reading capacity of simple children literature, let's say. So that is where we are. And with over thousands of vocabulary and basic grammar, probably whatever we can imagine. So that is where we have built now with him.
Got it. Okay, that's making a lot of sense now. Thanks for explaining all of that for us. So you've talked about the research base and the efficacy of these methods, and you've talked about the fact that your platform is gamified. You've got a lot of engagement components, and you are licensing some really nice content in Chinese as part of that. The third piece that we like to think about when we think about when we're doing like a product evaluation for an ed tech company or something like that is the ease of implementation. So can you talk a little bit about kind of how with hihilulu, how are you ensuring sort of a frictionless adoption for teachers?
What do you mean exactly the frictionless adoption for teacher?
So how do you make sure, like for a teacher who's new to your methodology, who's picking up this product for the first time, how do you ensure that that teacher can implement the product effectively? Does the product talk to other systems in the school? Does it have single sign-on? Like all the things that, reduce the complexity for a teacher implementing the product?
Absolutely great question, because this is exactly the core. When we are talking about education, we need teacher, right? And I mean, teacher is the center to deliver the pedagogy. And so how could we make sure that this pedagogy and the new method is promoted and delivered, more important, delivered properly in classroom or in whatever setting, right? So we established Hihilulu Academy with Professor Joe Bellasang, that we do teacher training. We provide a full comprehensive teacher training each year twice. And now we have a teacher base worldwide in many different countries to take this pedagogy and take our digital solution into classroom. So it is painful because when we developed the application and then a web-based school platform, we thought as a tech company, that's it. We did our job and it's there, use it. And then we found, oh my God, actually we have to train teacher on two fronts, right? First, the pedagogy and the methodology. They have to deliver the different way of teaching in comparison to traditional Chinese way of teaching. We call it monoism, in contrast to the dualism. So they have to abandon their monoism teaching, abandon starting from already lesson 1, the word-based content, shifting to us by using these 2 different system, right? Very easy. The more experienced teacher, the more easy they slide back to the old way. What we make sure is training. They have to be trained by us. We have a standard 12-session program training, each session 1.5 hour, led by Professor Bellison, and then by our product, then by our trainer. So make sure they get it implemented and delivered in classroom. And we do examination. They have to do demo class. And most of the time, only, unfortunately, 40 to 50% teacher pass the final exam. They don't get a certificate. Second, we make sure that our product supports them. So that means developed the digital innovation. We thought it's built on over SaaS, And then we found, we have problem in classroom. There are teacher who is not good with digital, but very good with physical material. And there are also restriction in Montessori, for example, of all time screen time, right? So what we did is we make sure that the teacher are fully supported also with the offline material. So we are forced as a tech company to basically develop also complementary physical material so that the teacher has everything in hand. Call out the online, digital, modular design, take whatever content you want to use, and then meanwhile give them brochure, give them menu, give them flashcards, and give them whatever you can think about, Lego, the construction game of the snowboarding method. So we give them full coverage. They can conduct a lesson as they like, but the method has to be delivered. All of those teaching aid, when we say it.
Yeah, that's a lot of really great support. And I really respect that model of certifying teachers. I think what's really nice about that is it ensures an effective implementation, and it ensures that you as a business owner have really good efficacy data.
Yeah.
I worked at a couple companies where we use that same model of the teacher has to be certified to deliver the product. And as a result of that, we were able to show just like really great efficacy data. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
You have built hihilulu across China, France, and you have an implementation here in Boston. What have been kind of the biggest operational challenges in managing an international edtech company, and like how did you adapt your approach for different markets?
Oh my God, I think many founders would face the same problem. There are several challenges we are facing each day. First of all, I think B2B school business is extremely difficult. The sales cycle is so long, decision-making process is complicated, and you basically knock the door, and there are still regulatory barrier in some countries to jump over. In fact, if you want to get into public system, you have to go through all of this. So at the moment, we are only targeting at private schools because the decision making could be faster.
Yeah.
That's already challenging enough, seriously, to carry on and expand as you would like, faster. It's never fast enough with this school B2B business. Secondly, international expansion. I mean, many edtech company, I guess like us, we are actually very international. I'm looking at my team. We are extremely flat structured in a way, but we are in every country. I'm not saying every 192 country, but we are spread through different countries for different discipline or operation. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Our development team. So we have a development team in China, and we here, the company is a French edtech company. We are supported by French innovation grants as well, by French governmental ecosystem in a way, And however, we are after the initial success with Paris-based international school or prestigious private schools. Of course, we would like to venture out, and the demand to Chinese language are particularly strong in some new emerging markets. So we ventured out, and then in international market expansion, we learned a lot. It's definitely not easy. It's a very, because we have this unique pedagogy requiring teacher as a center of the carrier to the business, to the customer. So it's needed to have on the ground of the operation. So we need to have on the ground teacher. We have on the ground, we need to have the on the ground operational team, sales team, at least, So this slowed down a lot the expansion internationally in comparison to SaaS company. We cannot be compared to them. However, as we have a sophisticated comprehensive system, we are going to launch a SaaS model this year and to see how that could go faster as well. So international expansion, there's another very critical factor. In country per country, there's always different regulation. And if you are a newcomer and you're not aware of those local regulation, it would harm you or at least delay your market penetration a lot. We are learning it in Middle East, for example. It seems like the demand is very high and
Yeah.
the interest in this language as a new rising soft power is very strong. However, when you go into the acquisition and implementation, you found there's a lot of red tapes and a lot of
Yeah.
regulation. You only get noticed when you hit the wall and oh, okay, how I solve that problem.
Right. Right.
So all of this, you need to be extremely adaptive and resilient, and sometimes it's very discouraging. I found at least that if we want to have a unified, innovative solution which can be adapted by international market, the road is more bumpy. The road is more bumpy than we thought. Indeed, we thought digital innovation and everything flat and everything online could be easily adapted. There should be no big barrier, right? But in fact, no. It's market by market. So we're learning in the hard way. So there are a lot of ways you could deal with it easier. For example, you focus on bigger account. You focus on group. You focus on affiliation. You try to move more towards SaaS model, for example. Try to go for bigger deal than the smaller one. There are a lot of ways you can do still. I still have a positive belief in international unification, of one good solution of one particular problem. But I do learn that it needs more time and resilience. It's not that easy. Really not that easy.
It's a lot of complexity.
Yes, absolutely.
Um, Given kind of the current funding landscape, I know you've secured grants and you've competed in the Learn Launch Accelerator program. You've built partnerships. What's your philosophy on kind of blending these different funding sources to maintain mission alignment? And can you talk specifically about how you make decisions about what to fund and like when to iterate the product and things like that?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm not sure I'm the best person to talk about that because we have I would say a very classic traditional survival funding experience. So first of all, because this is out of my personal drive to provide my children a solution. So of course I started with my own funding. As you could imagine, I myself is the first investor, and then my family, and then my friends who had believed in me and trusted in me. So extended to family, friends, the 3F, typical.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we applied French government grants, and we got two, thanks God. And then we got also the attention from Learn Launch, and they gave us some funding supporting us. And then we were basically left alone to continue the development of product and then private investment, because as you hear that we have gone through the journey of pivot from the first product to second product, and we are not the most interesting hot potato, I would say, in the most VC's eyes, right? Because to them it's a very different philosophy and different demand. So I personally very much focused on private big investor. And I believe to this stage now, we are lucky to get very big, great angel investor, big private investor supporting us. And now we are still talking to big private investor. And hopefully we can talk to some so-called early stage like seed or Series A fund and see whether our matrix would satisfy them, because their demand in that field for us with this business model is very hard to satisfy them. I'm very straightforward. I don't criticize the funds or whatever, but indeed we need to be very open and adaptive to the nature of the business and come up with our own funding strategy. That is what I learned. And with private investors, and it is more word of mouth referral and personal trust. So it's different than only look at matrix, you know. And
Right.
we are trying to expand internationally 2, 3 years already. Now we are in 7 markets. We're now in 7 markets. This year we made a breakthrough. Each market has our pilot projects, and it's running, and we're collecting different payment and so on and so on. But it took us a while to learn and revive there. And I learned in this period that indeed we are more suitable for those kind of private investors and rather than VC funds, you know. So I talked to both of them, my learnings, but now we are accumulating our matrix and data. I think slowly will become interesting to some funds. And then we are ready to talk to some funds. And so we are open and to be adaptive, but we have to give ourselves some of the period, especially when you go to new market, you need to give yourself almost like beta testing. You have to beta
Yeah.
test your business model. You have to beta test your pricing, and you have to beta test the successful local factors.
Right.
The
Right.
regulatory, like the right team member, and you even need time to test whether you have the right hire, you know, and all of this is time. So to VC fund, this is all against their philosophy. So I understand. So because of that reason, we adapt to new, different philosophy of funding. But we are lucky. We survived the long product development period, because what we have now is a very complicated, gigantic content platform with a academic system blended in, you know.
Yeah.
So it took time to develop. And with AI, thanks God, we can do much more now, much more.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've had just really an incredible journey with this product. Can you what advice would you give to other ed tech entrepreneurs in this space?
You have to love, you have to love education, then you can endure and survive. You know, my drive start personally because I feel like if mom had started a venture and couldn't succeed, how could my kids be persistent on whatever they do? So that is my drive that I continue to today. And
Yeah.
my
Love
kids
that.
did benefit. Indeed, my kids benefited from what I do. Their Chinese excellent. My kids can write essay now. They are 14. And they use this methodology. They learn Chinese in an easy way. I'm so happy for them. That's what I can do for them. And that's why I don't
Congratulations.
give up. Yeah, that's why I don't give up. But more than that, through the long journey, I found I'm responsible for my team, for my investor, for my shareholder. I'm responsible for all the kids of our customers who are learning from us with our system. I can only be better to help them because it's impossible to abandon, right? So when you have a terrible situation, like, okay, one investor said no in last second, so what should I do? I'm running out of cash. What should I do? Everyone faces this situation, right? You can only overcome this horrifying moment by believing in what you do and still love what you do. I love to work each day 10, 12 hours. Everybody said, you're crazy. No, I'm not crazy. I love what I do. I don't feel it's a burden. And
Yeah.
I see when I go to classroom to see the students who are learning Chinese with us, I'm so happy. I feel the reward. So I carry on. I don't feel it's a real terrible burden on me. So you first and foremost is you are doing it because you believe in it and you have a mission. You have a mission to I have a mission now with Professor Joe Bellison to tackle the wrong way of learning Chinese for foreign learners. The Chinese learner, they can take Chinese approach, Taiwanese approach, no problem. Let them be. But for non-Chinese learners, we want to make their life easy. We want to give them the best way, easy, effective, that they have a result. And we don't want them to be frustrated and to be disgusted through the way, which is just too much. So we are on a mission. So we can't give it up. If you have a mission, and then you will overcome, and then you will survive. Because I really think edtech is extremely difficult. I worked before in different tech, because I'm a consultant, right? I work with different tech company, and it's different story. And the edtech is tremendously difficult, slow. You need to have extremely good product with pedagogy, blended well with a right pedagogy. The user experience is extremely challenging, especially you are talking about children. And so the UX is really extraordinarily challenging. It's not a social media platform, it's some complete different story. And plus, to go to market, the strategy, you have to adapt. You have to always try to stand ahead of the wave. And you have to endure, if you do B2B, the long cycle. So at the end, I think a lot of edtech companies founder probably also face the same challenge like me. They have to face B2B because maybe monetization there is bigger. However, they cannot abandon B2C as well because your individual user is the most loyal and easier in comparison to B2B market, right? So nobody likes to talk about two target market. B2B, oh, you want to do B2B? Sorry. You want to do B2C? Oh, there's B2C investor for you. So, what I learned it's through the way, actually many edtech company, they have to serve B2B and B2C. So how should they do? It is tough. You need different skill set. You probably even need different team, and everyone has to overcome that and decide what you do. And so I think that is the biggest challenge as well.
Jennifer, that's great advice, and it's just beautiful and inspiring. I really feel your passion. Thank you so much for being on Chalk and Code today. If any of our listeners would like to contact you, where can they reach you?
Well, my email is best, jennifer@hihilulu.com. Always there. And otherwise, we have, of course, website, hihilulu.com. And you can leave message there. There's a contact, And I'm on LinkedIn, of course. My LinkedIn account is Jennifer Huang. And very easy, you can find me. Jennifer, you search, you will find me. So I will be glad to be contacted by you. And learn from each other.
That's right. We got to do this together.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's a very nice talk to you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. If today's conversation sparked new insights or challenged your thinking, we'd love to hear from you.
Visit flexion.us for more information and join us here next time on Chalk and Code.